Hi, everybody. It's Jean Humbrecht with Humbrecht Law, criminal and traffic defense attorney in Manassas, Virginia. Welcome to my semi-weekly local business spotlight. Today, I am joined by Jodi Cilley from the Realty One, no, not the Realty One Group, Old Town, out
Right.
in Winchester. So, Jodi, I met, I was going to say recently, but time flies. It was last year. We met networking out in Frederick County, and we had an opportunity to have a meeting. And I was just so impressed with everything that she told me about her business and her experiences. So I'm going to turn it over to her so she can tell you guys a little bit about what she does. And I guess, Jodi, if you can briefly mention the downsizing seminars, but we'll get
Sure.
more into that later. So, Jodi, I'm turning it over to you.
Sure. So I'm Jodi Cilley. I work, like Jean said, at Realty One Group in Winchester, Virginia. Thanks for having me, Jean. I appreciate it. A chance to kind of talk with you and your viewers. And so I am a realtor here, and I specialize in serving the senior community, 55 plus, and also first responders. And people always ask, well, how did you choose that specialty? And we are a family of first responders. I was a military brat. My husband had a 23-year career as a military officer. And now my son, my middle son, is also in the military and is just now candidating to be an officer. He's enlisted down in Virginia Beach doing the F-22 flight line. So he's got kind of an exciting job and hoping to become an officer this year. So, and then also my youngest is studying to be a nurse at Liberty. So I've got all these like first responder connections, and that's kind of my vibe. I like to give back to the community that way. And like it or not, I'm in the 55 plus community myself. So I'm serving my peers and also thinking about retirement. You know, my husband and I always have conversations about what do we want to do when we retire? It's are we going to move? Are we going to stay here? And that is led to me specializing also with that senior component. A special niche that I discovered last year was downsizing. Winchester is a very large community for retirees. We're kind of known as the bedroom community of the DC National Capital Region, and a lot of people move out here to retire. We have some retirement communities that are very well known, Lake Frederick, which is a senior kind of a luxury living retirement place. And we also have two centers that do continuum of care. We have the Village at Orchard Ridge, which does, and also Westminster Canterbury. So that's part of like Winchester's economic and just makeup of a higher senior population. And then with COVID too, we had an influx of people coming from with that urban exodus. We have a lot of people coming out to Winchester because they've discovered they can work from home. They can buy a home in Winchester for quite a bit less than they can in, say, Loudoun County or Fairfax County, or even we get some people from, I've had clients from New York and New Jersey and Pennsylvania that are moving to more affordable communities. So it's been really exciting to discover that people are wanting to move, and especially the retirement community, just wanting to downsize. And I fell into the downsizing aspect of the job because last year in November, when I was looking at every November, I sort of look over my sales for the year, where they're coming from, where all my leads are coming from. And I was shocked how many of my own clients were downsizing. And I thought, oh, I think I've stumbled onto something here. And then I realized there's no resources for this for them. And it's a very complicated process that takes quite a bit of time and money. And I thought, you know what? I need to provide this service for our community. There's, if nothing else, provide connections for people that are downsizing to get them connected to movers or declutterers or organizers or lenders that can help them figure out the package of how to downsize. So I started doing that in early this year in January, and I'm having my fourth seminar this Saturday. So
Oh, perfect timing.
yeah, so and it's a virtual seminar. So if anyone would like, any of your audience are interested in attending that seminar, they can reach out to me, and I can get them signed up and get them the materials that they'll need to do that. I'm going to have the subject of my seminar. I always do, the first part of it is sort of the best practices of downsizing, and kind of
Mhm.
give you an idea of what to do. And that comes with a worksheet and a timeline that you, like a notional timeline that you can fill out. And then also I usually have a special guest, like this time I'm having Tara Nines from Visiting Angels. We're talking about special considerations in downsizing. Maybe you need to modify your home or have nursing care, or maybe one of the reasons you're downsizing is because you need one level living, and that's what we're addressing this time. So yeah, it's been really an interesting career change for me. I haven't always been a realtor, so and I really love it. I'm kind of stumbled into it late, but I really love it.
Okay. Well, I wanted to say a couple things. Well, and I have a few questions, but first thing I wanted to say is I don't believe that you are in your peer group. You do not look like you are over 55. So I wanted to start with that. But well, I have so many questions actually, but how long have you been in real estate?
Sure.
And well, let's start with that and then I'll go into my other questions.
Sure. So I pre-show here, I told you that we lived in Germany for 10 years. So when we
Hmm.
came back to the States, we came back to Winchester. That was about 7 years ago. And in Germany, I was mostly raising my kids working part-time. I was a substitute teacher, and I started doing nonprofit work, human trafficking work, because prostitution is legal in Germany, and it's a very, where we were was like the human trafficking hub of all of Europe. So it was a very um, fulfilling job. I love that. And then I also did some HR work. So when I came here, what I wanted to do was continue with the human trafficking work. But Winchester's such a small community, not that we don't have that kind of problem here. We certainly do. But I couldn't, there was no organization locally at that time that I could really plug into. And so I kind of went back to my corporate stuff. I thought, okay, well, I'll try and get a job doing insurance or banking or HR. And I landed in banking, which I hadn't done before, but I thought, oh, it's corporate. It'll be very similar to what I've done in the past.
Hmm.
How different can it be, right? Well, I did that for a couple years, and it just wasn't a good fit. It's such a regulated industry, and like the um, the atmosphere was just so controlling. They film everything you do, they record everything you do. Everything is just, I don't know, it was just too much for me. It wasn't a good fit. So I got an opportunity. Someone just suggested, hey, have you ever thought about being a real estate agent? And I was like, I think I would really like that. I remember when I bought my house here, I remember really admiring the agent that we worked with to buy our house here and thinking, oh, I would love a job like that. But at the time, I didn't really think I could do something like that, because I've never been in my own business. I've never been in sales. I've never, and so I just thought it was kind of way out there, pie in the sky. Um, but when this opportunity or this person presented me with this question, I thought, why not? I can do this. Certainly I can figure it out. How hard can it be, right? So I took the plunge. And if you know me at all, I am so risk averse. It was such um, it was really quite a dive for me to do this, because it was very unlike me. I love things to be predictable and very orderly and no risk. And so I did this right when COVID started. I quit my job at the bank, I think 2 weeks before the shutdown. And
Oh,
then when we shut down, I was like, what have I done? I've quit my job. I've started this new career and the economy shut down. So, um, and at that time, we weren't really sure if real estate was even going to be allowed to operate. And in some
Right.
states, it was not. But luckily in Virginia, we were still able to continue to operate. And um, that first month, everyone, I mean, the real estate, just the sales bottomed out and everyone was really scared. But then it just, who knew that it would take off like it did?
Hmm.
So I ended up learning through a fire hose, just,
Yeah.
being very busy those first 2 years and even, now just continuing on with that. But it's really been the best decision I've made in my life.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So do you, because, well, so do you mainly represent sellers? Is that why you were busy when COVID
No,
first
I
came?
do both. I will operate as a buyer's agent or a seller's agent. I prefer listing just because I feel like I have a lot more control of what's going on.
Hmm.
And I can, if there's a lot of work up front, but then all the business comes to me. So that's
Yeah.
kind of nice. When you're a buyer's agent, you have to go out and find the buyer, which I don't mind doing either. I just prefer listing. But
Hmm.
with the downsizing, I get a little bit of both because I have people that have a home usually that they're empty nesters, it's a big home, maybe they're mobility challenged or have lost a spouse and they want to move into something smaller, more manageable. And so I'm usually selling that house and then helping them find the right place to live.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, I do both.
Okay. And then representing first responders and military, I assume it's also both people selling their houses because they're
Mhm.
being transferred and moving to the area.
Yeah, and the military contingent is not there's not very many active military people here, but we do have, firemen and medical professionals, and a good retirement contingency here too, a
Hmm.
lot of
Hmm.
retired military. So I do, um, have a fair number of my clients are from the first responder category also.
Okay. So how would you say that you are different? And I'm not talking about the downsizing seminars right now because we're going to get to that in a minute. So how are you different? What is it that you can provide to your clients that maybe they wouldn't get from another realtor?
Well, I really try to bring one of it goes back to when I first started. One of the reasons I was reluctant to become a realtor is because I had this idea of a used car salesman almost, like a cringy, salesy,
Hmm.
um, aggressive person that's just going to sell, sell, sell. And that is so not me. So when I took this job, I told my broker, I'm going to do this my way. I am going to be sincere. I'm going to really look out for the needs of my client. I want to provide a concierge service for my sellers. I want to, make sure that I do everything necessary and provide a quality product, because when you're a seller's agent, you are managing that asset. You are, how you present that asset to the world is so important. That house needs to be, you need to do professional photography, and if it needs to be cleaned, you need to be able to bring your cleaners in and do that, and style it or stage it or whatever needs to be done to make that property sell. I want to provide that level of concierge service. I don't want to be the realtor that just puts your listing in the MLS and just sit back and wait for, I want to be very proactive from the get go. And once I put that on the MLS, it's a very good product. People are going to look at that listing and say, that's a nice, the pictures look good and everything is going to attract them. So,
Okay.
and then on the buy side, I really try not to pressure people. I dig deep into what are you really looking for. I make dossier of all of my clients, all of their needs. I try to keep that top of mind so that I'm not just showing them willy nilly, here's a house, here's a house, here's a house. I'm really trying to cater to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it's good that you said that, because I think a lot of people have had experiences like that with realtors. Like the realtor will take them to a property, and you can make a lot of places look nice in pictures, but when you go to the property, it's not at all where you want to be, not what you want for a variety of reasons, and it's really wasting the buyer's time and the agent's time if they're not actually
Mm.
showing you what it is that you want and that you could
Yeah.
afford. I guess that's another issue too. Um,
Yeah, I kind of consider myself a matchmaker, like match the client to the house, as and I enjoy that process. I enjoy, searching and trying to find the right thing for my clients and getting to know them. And um, it's very, very gratifying when it works out and it's like a win-win for everyone. And that's my goal.
yeah, because buying a house, probably no matter how many times you've done it, is very stressful. And I'm
Oh,
sure selling a house is stressful. I've never had to deal with that aspect, but yeah. So
it's stressful all around. And one of the jobs of a good agent is to take that stress off you, to
mhm,
have a process, to have, not just wing it when you have a process of how you sell, you have a process of how you buy, and you take each person through that process. And the first year of real estate, I got coached by a very successful local real estate agent, and just learning, because of my age, entering into a new career later in my life, I didn't want to waste a lot of time trying to figure it out and, trial by error. So I immediately hired a coach, and I was like, I want someone to teach me the best practices of this business so that I can jump right in and do quality work.
mhm. Well, yeah, it's good that you did that. Um,
Yeah.
but I wanted to ask you, just we could probably talk for 8 hours about this, but just because I want to get to the downsizing, but real estate in general right now, people, we all hear so many different things. I, I'm asking kind of several questions within. I probably should have written this down first, but is it still a seller's market? Is it true that there are not enough property? There are more buyers than there are properties. Is it as bad as it
Mhm.
was in the beginning of COVID? Are rates likely to go
Right.
down? Where are rates now? If you can, like, just kind of address kind of that whole issue.
Sure. Sure. So, okay, well, let's start with is it a strong seller's market? It's still, I would say it's much more balanced. In 2021, after COVID hit, buyers had no rights at all. They
Mhm,
had to give away the farm to get the
mhm,
house. They
mhm,
were going over asking, waiving appraisals, waiving
mhm,
blah, blah. I mean, it was ridiculous. And it was kind of, I actually really didn't like that, because if you were on the buyer side, I felt really conflicted advising my clients, if you want this house, this is what you have to do. You have to pay over asking. You have to be willing to bring money to the appraisal. And
mhm,
that was uncomfortable for me, because it just was not a good setup for my buyers. It was great for my sellers because they were just,
mhm,
bringing in, they got everything they wanted. But the
mhm.
market is much more balanced now. We have a little bit more inventory, which is really nice.
Okay.
We also have, because the interest rates have gone up, and we have this sort of wicked trifecta for the buyer. They've got higher interest rates, prices have not gone down at all. If anything, they've still gone up, especially in our area. And I
Mhm,
just do want to remind everyone that real estate is hyper local. Like what's happening in Winchester, what's happening in Loudoun, is very different from what's like happening in Florida or Texas or California. So it's very hyper local. But
mhm,
I'm speaking to what's happening here.
mhm,
It's more balanced for the buyer. it's a little bit more difficult for maybe your first time home buyer because of those, the higher interest rates, the higher prices, and then you've got inflation. The economy is not so great. And so there's a lot of insecurity for the buy side, especially kind of maybe your lower priced buyers. I'm sorry, my phone's ringing. So that have been priced out of the market, but people are still buying and selling. It's so crazy. Like, we're still very busy here in Winchester. People are still moving here. People still need to buy and sell. I know I have realtor friends in Loudoun County, same thing. It's not even slowed down from COVID. They are still in a really intense market there. So, but the buyer has a lot more say now. I'm seeing a lot more home sale contingencies that are being accepted. You can get a home inspection now, which is nice because you
Yeah.
want to know what you're getting into. Much more balanced. And even, I don't think it's like tipped to a buyer's market yet, but if things continue to be tough economically, it might. But we're still seeing the seller still has kind of the advantage, but a lot more. The buyer's able to request a lot more now.
Hmm. Well, in what way would it become more of a buyer's market if the economy doesn't get any better?
What you're going to see is, if things get worse, like if interest rates go up or inflation or whatever, and people just cannot buy, that would tip it more to a buyer's market, because the sellers are going to be put in a position where they have to bring down the price. The price has to come down or people aren't going to buy. And if that happens, then I think that's going to tip it over to a buyer's market. Then you're going to have a position where buyers are going to say, this is my little pot of money and I'm going to be very particular about where I spend it. And you're
Hmm.
going to have sellers saying, and I even see a little bit of this, sellers are offering to pay closing costs now, which they weren't for the last 3 years. So you are seeing a little bit more of that. And if the market, if interest rates go up, if inflation goes up, if unemployment becomes an issue, you're going to see more of that tilt towards the buyer's market.
That makes sense. I'm
Yeah,
glad I asked the question because, yeah, it's I wouldn't have thought about that.
yeah.
Um, okay, so now to the unless there's anything else you want to tell us about that, now to the downsizing seminars.
Sure, sure.
So in terms of downsizing, so I've also heard that if people were able to get lower interest, people who current homeowners who have a lower interest rate, like 2 or 3 or whatever,
Right.
they if they don't have to sell, they're not going to, because if they have to buy something else, they're losing that low interest rate and they're gonna have to pay a higher interest rate on whatever their new property is. So the people that you're helping with downsizing, is that an issue for them, or are they just kind of in positions where they have to, and because they're maybe moving to a smaller house, the interest rate doesn't affect them as much?
Well, it's interesting. I've got both. I've got clients that are like, you know what, let's see how we can modify our existing home so we can stay put, because we want to keep our lower interest rate.
Hmm.
Um, and in fact, the interest rate, if you've got a loan, at 2 or 3 and you're looking at 7 now, I mean, even if you downsize, your house payment might be the same as your big house, because because of the interest rates. So I've seen that. And then I've seen people that are, they just need to downsize. They cannot manage the house that they're in.
Hmm.
They have too many stairs. There's a mobility issue, or maybe a spouse has died and it's just too much for one to take care of. And so they're going ahead and downsizing anyway, in spite of their interest rates. So I've seen both. I think it's very individual. And that was one of the reasons why I started the downsizing seminar, is because these people need guidance. It's a complicated process to understand real estate, the economy, the whole downsizing process
Mhm.
itself. So, and a lot of the people that I speak to don't end up buying another place because they. But I can connect them to a builder that can help them, or a contractor that can help them modify their current home so they can age in place there
Mhm.
more comfortably. Um, but and then there's people that want to move closer to family, and in that case, that those economic things are not gonna
Yeah.
be a factor. They're gonna, if they want to move close to family, they're gonna do what it takes to do that, and maybe even live with family. So I've seen that as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm. Um, so without giving away the whole farm, can you tell everybody what it is that you address in the downsizing seminars?
Sure, sure. I go through, I have what I call the best practices of downsizing. And because every situation is different and there's different needs to consider, it's not a cookie cutter thing. It's not like everyone has to go this, it's not a linear process where whoop, everyone does the same thing.
Mhm.
So what we do first is I give you the best practices in the way you should do it, that would be most economical, that makes the most sense, so that you can take it in bite-sized pieces. Like the first thing I'm going to do is declutter. The second thing I'm going to do is, just kind of piece through it. Most people have to sell their home first before they can buy another home. So there's certain logic in the best practices. So I teach that at every seminar, and then I
Mhm.
specialize in a subject in the seminar. Like one of them is called Getting Your Financials House in Order.
Mhm.
One of them is called What Do I Do with All My Stuff? Because if you're, moving in from a 3,000 square foot home to a 1,000 square foot home, you've got to manage that all your stuff's not going to fit in that smaller home. So
Mhm.
we talk about the process of that as well.
Okay. So what is the focus this Saturday?
This Saturday, I'm doing special circumstances in downsizing, and I'm addressing if you need in home care like nursing, or maybe if you have some mobility issues, you're not able to you want to stay in your home, but you just need a little support, whether it be with errands or whatever. So I have someone coming from um, what's the name of that place? Something nursing. Visiting Angels. Visiting Angels is the
Oh,
name of the
okay.
place. And then I also am hoping to, I haven't confirmed the contractor yet, but I'm expecting to have a contractor there to talk about what it takes, if you're living in a home that you want to stay, if you need to make it safer for you, if you need to add handles, or make the stairways safer, or install one of those kind of elevator things that goes up the stairs,
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
stuff kind of like that to handle, like making your home safer for you to stay.
Mhm. So also in these seminars, or maybe do you individually, when you talk to people, do you kind of walk them through what might be the best option, financially or maybe otherwise, like whether it is to stay in their home or whether it is to sell the home and maybe go into a retirement community? Do you talk about
Mhm.
those things as well? Because even if they want to stay in their home, maybe another option might be better for them. Do you kind of walk through all of that with them?
Yeah, I try to have I have the seminar, and then I encourage people to make an appointment with me so that
Mhm.
we can talk about their personal situation and their needs. Because my seminar is general, and all the steps that you need to go through are there, but your situation might just be a little bit different, and you might need resources like um, maybe you don't have a lender yet, and maybe you're not really sure if you can afford to do this and need to speak to someone first. I have finance people that can
Mhm.
help with that. And so we just kind of take it individually, and I just walk them through the process. And say the first thing you need to do is this, and here's your assignment, and here's a
Mhm.
resource if you don't have one. And then I follow up with them. How did it go with the lender? Did you get some questions answered? How do you want to go forward? And just sort of baby step them through that process. And some people don't really need a whole lot of help. I had one client that came to my seminar, was completely motivated, and he just went for it, and he's already in his new house.
No.
So a lot of times they just need the information and they can do it themselves, but a lot of times they don't even know where to go for the information. So it just depends individually where they are, and I try to cater to those needs.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I thought of
Yeah.
another question. Oh, so my question is, how do the people, who would be the best person to go to your downsizing seminars, and how do you find the people that are attending your seminars? Are they current clients?
Right. So initially they were just my current clients, and then so I do some advertising. I've done Facebook advertising. I've advertised in the local paper, the Winchester Star. I am looking into doing in Front Royal. They have a radio station there that does a monthly spotlight of like a nonprofit type. I don't know if it's nonprofit only, but like a business spotlight, kind of like what you're doing, that will highlight services in the community that may not be known. And so I'm hoping maybe to get on that radio spot. I need to reach out to that person. I haven't done so yet, but so I do some advertising. I do word of mouth. I did Eventbrite this last time, and a lot of my client list, or the list for my RSVPs for this upcoming meeting on Saturday, are from Eventbrite. So that was actually a really good way to advertise. So it just a lot of word of mouth, and just surprisingly, a lot of my friends, because I am in that age group, are interested. Maybe they're not interested in doing it right away, but they're interested about getting information about it. And so I provide that as well.
Okay. So who would be the ideal person to attend your seminar?
I think the ideal, there's two really that I'm focusing on. The ideal person who wants to downsize, whether it be a married couple or a single person that is just like at the point in their life where they're like, my house is too much to manage. I want to get into a smaller place. Maybe they want to go into Westminster Canterbury, or the village at Orchard Ridge, and they need to figure out what to do with all their stuff in their house so that they can do that. So that's my number one. And then the children, because a lot of times the parents, it's the kids that realize first, Mom, you can't take care of the house anymore. You need to, you know what I mean? And so I work with also children that are trying to encourage their parents to face sort of the reality of maybe not immediately, but maybe eventually they're going to need to do something. They're not going to be able to stay in their home for whatever reason. So I have a fair amount of kids that have parents that they're concerned about too. And sometimes the kids, I haven't had a kid that is driving that had a power of attorney that could drive the transaction for their parents yet, but I'm certain I will at some point, because they may, someone that's been given power of attorney over their parents because maybe they have dementia or whatever, they're not able to care for themselves and make decisions. I would certainly try to help someone with that too.
Okay. And so like, how can we help you to find, to get this information about your seminars out to the right people?
Right. So if you know anybody in an industry that could be sort of related to downsizing, like nursing homes or movers, or if you want to connect me with other people that might be touching that downsizer in a different capacity, I like to network with those people. Of course, sharing on Facebook sharing my event or my posts about downsizing helps. If you know of people that, I mean, because it's not uncommon, at least in my circle, to hear people talking about downsizing and just sort of letting them know that I offer that service. Yeah, and of course, I'll take any questions, or if anybody wants to talk to me directly, just call me or email me, and we'll set up a time.
So anybody that is watching, you can still feel free to type your questions in the chat, and we will get to them if we are still here when I get your questions. But Jodi, I'm gonna type in your contact information. So can you tell me your email address just so I can type it in here really quick, and then phone number?
Sure, it's Jodi, Jodi, the number 4, every move, EVERYMOVE at gmail.com.
Okay.
And my number is 540-533-5049.
5049. Okay. And how much is it to attend your seminar?
I'm not charging to attend my seminar. I am
It is
hoping
all
to.
really good to get all this great information.
Yeah, I'm not charging because I feel like it's such a needed resource in our community, and it's a way I can give back to seniors in our community, and connect. If nothing else, connect them to people that can help them. But of course, I would be. I want to be honest here. I'm trying to recruit the business too. I want to be the one selling your home and helping you buy the next home. So, obviously that is my motivation, is to get clients this way, but also to be a service to the community.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well that's great. What time is the seminar on Saturday?
It's Saturday at 2 to 3:30, and if you need a link, just reach out to me. I will send you the link. We'll be doing it on Zoom, and it's good use of your time. And I also give out the slideshow that I do. I'll send you the PowerPoint slideshow that has all the information in it, and I send a worksheet that will help you kind of work through the questions and the stages of downsizing to help you make a notional timeline that you can. Because the biggest thing about downsizing is you need a timeline. You need to know what you want, and go ahead and set a date. You can move that date, but you should start with something. Otherwise, it doesn't really ever get done. So I help with that notional timeline as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, I actually am going to I'll contact you offline about that, but I actually might check out the seminar if I'm able to on Saturday, so that I can spread that information. And Jodi, I thought of while we were talking, I thought of a few business owners and different industries that I want to connect you with. That would be
that would be good. And then also, I think, Gina, initially I had talked with you about, I'm also wanting to have my next seminar, which will probably be in August. I'm probably not going to have one in July, but in August, I want to do a legal one that talks about elder care and like power of attorney. And and maybe bring in that, the children aspect, because there's some elder law and just stuff that maybe the children of downsizers would be interested in, and like, how do I help my parents do this? So that is one of the next one I want to do is a legal one. So
okay.
I'll be setting it. I'll be reaching out. There's a local elder law estate person here in Winchester that I'll be reaching out to help me with that one.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, great. Well, thank you so much for having me and allowing me to share my passion for real estate and helping seniors and first responders and those who are trying to downsize.
Of course. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. This was really good information that, I'm sure a lot of people don't think about until they are literally in the position where they might have
Mhm.
to move, and it would be very helpful to have all this information prior to needing it, so that when you do need it, you know what to do, or you're already
Yeah.
working towards that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really important because we're really all, once we get to a certain age, or one health crisis, one fall from maybe needing something like this, and if you've at least given it some thought ahead of time, you're not completely starting from scratch, So anyway,
Mhm.
that's my hope, is to bring those resources to the community. So
Well, what you're doing is great. So thank you. And I'm going to do what I can to advertise your seminars and make those connections for you.
okay,
But I
thanks.
forgot to tell you before we started that when I end the live, Jodi, you and I are still going to be here on our little screen like we were before it started. So you don't have to leave right away when I end the live stream.
Okay.
Because I always forget to tell everybody that. So is there anything else you want to tell our viewers before we go? I put your contact info in there.
No, no, just reach out to me and I'd be happy to have a consultation with you.
Hmm. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jodi, and thanks
You're
everybody
welcome.
for tuning in. My next local business spotlight is going to be with the Manassas City Mayor Michelle Davis Younger on July 3rd. So everybody tune in for that. It's not on the holiday yet, so there's no excuse. I'm just kidding. Okay. So thanks everybody. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye.